Hello and welcome. On this video I'm going to show you how to remove a typical square tapered crankset. This is the non-drive side. This particular crankset was made by White Industries. It's actually made by Sagino, but it's labeled as White Industries. But there's not much that changes on all these cranksets between the mid 80s up until the year 2000s, and there are still low-ended cranksets that are on bikes today. There is a older standard that used ISO. It's still the same tool. It's just that the taper was, I believe it was slightly longer. So the taper on the spindle on the actual bottom bracket itself. And there's also another standard, I think that was for, it's probably French cranksets. I know Stronglight had a larger diameter here, so you needed an extraction tool with a threading that was the diameter here that was larger. This one's going to be for the typical JIS, which is a Japanese industrial standard tapered bottom bracket, and for the crankset. What you will need to remove this is an extractor tool. I really recommend using one from a decent tool supplier, specifically, I don't know, Ice Tools, Part Tool, VAR, I think Hosan probably does one, Bike Hand, Pedro's, etc. The cheaper ones tend to, cross thread and break very quickly. And this is not a very expensive tool. Another thing you're really going to need is an adjustable wrench or a wrench that's going to fit onto this extractor tool. So you'll need either one of these and perhaps one with a longer arm for leverage if it's very stuck. And you will also need a Allen key. I think this is probably number 8 from the looks of it, if I can remember. So let's get started on doing this, and I'm going to give you any hints on potential problems that you can have while removing these. Before we start putting our extractor tool inside here, really I would recommend to clean the threads on the interior and on the extractor tool. You want this to really go in nice and freely and go to the end. I have damaged quite a few cranksets going too fast, and then once it's cross-threaded you can no longer actually pull this out. So I really would suggest doing that beforehand with some sort of degreaser or alcohol. As long as the threads are nice and clean, that's definitely going to help you out. You can most likely use any soapy water or even window cleaner to kind of take off some of the old dirt that's inside here. Really make sure it's nice and clean. This is where you're going to really F up on the beginning. When you first start turning it in, you cross thread the first thread, and then after the rest of them are gone. You can catch it up actually if you don't go too deep inside, but if you put it too deep inside and you destroy all the threads, it's finished, and you're then going to have an issue of having to get another type of tool to extract this out, and you don't want to do that. Next thing I like to do once you've done that is I like to put a bit of Vaseline oil. So I'm using just this 3-in-1 on the threading here, and this is going to allow for the threading to smoothly go in nicely and fit. You're going to feel it better that way. Really do recommend doing that. So now we're going to go in. What I suggest is you start screwing this kind of spindle part here that's going to push in the spindle, and what I like to do is I like to aim this part inside the actual square part that's pushing against the taper, because what I've done before is it's been slightly at an angle, and when I've started screwing this down thinking it was fine, I've then after tried to rip it out, and the whole extractor tool's come out. It's one of those mistakes you make. So what I like to do is I like to aim in the correct place inside here. It also gives you an idea of how deep it's going to be. So I think here I'm quite good. And now I'm going to gently start screwing this tool in. So I'm going back and forth until I can, in fact you can go back. If you go back you should hear when you've touched the first thread. Okay, I can hear it now screwing in. I've been going back and forth until I get it properly on. This really is that is the moment there where you just want to get that right. And I can hear now it's just screwing quite easily with my hands. And now I'm backing off the spindle here slowly so that way it's aiming properly. I'm backing that part off again and continuing. Because I put a bit of oil inside it, it's just sliding much easier, you know, it's not causing any friction. And you want to just keep going until you get right to the end. And I think that we've touched it. Okay, so now we've got to the stage where we're going to start extracting the crank arm. We're going to be turning this part here clockwise. You're going to need an adjustable wrench, like the one I've got here, or possibly longer if it's really stuck. Now, if this was really stuck, you might need some penetration oil, and you spray it on and you let that work on any corrosion that might have occurred over the crank arm's life and its contact with the spindle. Now the reason I didn't put this in a bike stand, because I do have one, it's just that I find that it's usually when it's really stuck I need to put a lot of tension on this adjustable wrench, and the bike stand just it starts shaking and you just don't want to do that. So now we're going to push down on the arm and we're going to push the other way with the wrench. And let's see if this comes out nice and easily. No. Quite hard. Check here around the threading. If that starts to move, you know you've done that wrong. That means the threading's starting to rip out. Let's try one more time. It's fairly hard, but I think it's gonna work. Oh. Okay, I can see it's now becoming a bit easier as the crank arm is extracting itself from the spindle, and I can feel now it's completely come off. We're going to screw that down and there you go, job done. Repeat the exact same process on the other side. Extras. On the other side you can I can actually feel where I'm biting the threads. Should have done this one. And looks like I'm yeah, I've bitten the thread, I can feel it, so that's good. Should have done this side first. Oh, this is how I usually do it. Keep threading. When it stops, back off the that spindle, the axe. Same thing again. Keep going. The other side's actually easier to work on because you've already got the, especially you've got the pedal, as this is going to be pushing against the floor. So when you're going to turn this, it's going to just come. You don't need to hold it with two hands, just one. And it's coming off nice and easy. Alright, so anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope this helped you remove your crank set from your bottom bracket. Until next time, peace out.